Welcome back. This is the Yang Chen series, so the art of self-nourishment. And the tip or the self-nourishment tool that we're talking about today is digestion. So we focus a lot on food in life and how, changing our diet and trying to get the perfect diet or the right foods, what will help with what. But really it starts with digestion. And if our digestion is strong, we feel good, we're able to absorb the nutrients that we're putting in, we're able to absorb the foods. And that is the building block for feeling good, having vitality, having energy, and balancing hormones. All of it comes from that. The only way that we build our energy, the only way that we survive, get the nutrients, is through the absorption of the nutrients that we put into our body. So digestion is so key. And so I just want to, today I'm just going to talk briefly about some top tips that I have to help strengthen your digestion. And a lot of it, just like all of this Yang Shen series, it's quite intuitive, but we forget about it. We sometimes think it has to be these big things, but that we have to change or do in order to feel better. But really, it's the small things. And digestion is one of the small things that we can make these little micro shifts to how we're eating day to day. And it will, over time, build up into something really, really significant. So the first thing with digestion, we're going to talk about quality of food, because that's going to be huge. But we want to eat in a relaxed manner. We want to avoid eating on the run, standing over your sink and eating while you're in a hurry, shoving things down, not chewing properly. I remember I had a friend who had, she's Italian descent, and she had a relative come from Italy, and she was staying with her, and she'd been out walking around, and she came home one day after being out, and her face was just like, had this just shocked look. And my friend was like, what's going on? And she was saying how like they were walking down the street eating pizza. Like, how could you walk and eat? And yet that's something that is so common now that people are eating in their car, eating on the run, grabbing things, walking, eating at their desk. So just when you eat, if you can try to eat in a relaxed manner, if you can sit and eat, just be mindfully eating, slow down and eat, that's absolutely huge. And it just helps with the whole digestion and the digestive process. The next tip is chew. There's a saying in Chinese medicine, the stomach doesn't have teeth. And basically the teeth are there for a reason. It's the first stage of digestion. And so when we actually break down our food, it's releasing different enzymes and a process that's going to help and stimulate the digestive enzymes in our stomach as well. So the more you chew your food, the less stress it puts on the rest of your system, and the better you're able to absorb the nutrients. So if you're just like chewing and barely chewing and it's going into your stomach, it has to work really hard to break down that food into a way that the body can then turn it into chyme, and then send it into the small intestine and go through that whole system. So chew your food. Next tip, stop just before you're full. So overeating or stuffing ourselves, it's like it literally is like a queue of food in our system, and it builds up. And this can cause fatigue, bloating, and we usually don't absorb properly. So if you can stop 70%, 80% of just a little bit not stuffed, that creates space and room, and it doesn't overwhelm the digestive system. So that helps you absorb better. The other little tip for when you're eating is don't drink too much fluid with your meals. So when you drink a lot of water in particular, it dilutes, I can't speak today, dilutes the gastric juices need in your stomach that's needed to break down the foods. And it can build up, it can contribute to excess fluid in the body, but mostly it weakens the whole digestive process and your body's ability to break it down again. So if you're thirsty or you like drinking with meals, like you can have a little bit of warm broth or something that's got a lot of minerals in it. If you have water, try to have water before meals, give it 15-20 minutes before, so you hydrate, versus having a big glass of water with your meals. And when you do drink, it's nicer to have warm beverages or room temperature versus anything cold. I'll talk about that actually in a second. Actually, I'll talk about it right now. When everything that goes into our stomach needs to be warmed up above body temperature in order for the digestive enzymes to kick in order for our body to break down the nutrients. And so when we put things in that are cold or frozen, icy, it just makes, it's basically like you're trying to cook a soup. That's what your stomach is. And every time you put icy cold drinks in, it's like you're adding an ice block into the soup and trying to break it down, then trying to have it cook. And so it doesn't work so well. If anyone's tried to cook soup that way, it just doesn't work. And so it can overwhelm the digestive system. Doesn't mean never, but if you're someone who has weaker digestion, you're run cold all the time, if it's winter, particularly, it's cold outside, you want to be making sure that what you put in is warm. And so avoid those icy frozen drinks, and that will really be helpful as well. Another thing that's really important to do is watching how we're labeling foods. So, try to stop labeling things as good foods or bad foods, and letting go of some of the guilt that comes along with how we look at foods. A lot of times people are trying to eat good foods, but it's actually causing them more problems than not, because they're not listening to their body, or they're forcing things, or they're eating something that maybe isn't technically a health food, but the mental anguish they put themselves through, the berating themselves. I always say, eat it once, don't eat it 20 times, which is like, oh, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I ate that. What's wrong with me? I said I wasn't going to do that. Like all the stories that we have, or that's bad food. Whereas we have that sort of 80-20 rule. If you're eating things that are good for you, the majority of times, it's okay to have things that are just off, that maybe not a health food, but it's really like letting yourself have things and not beating yourself up or labeling good, bad, because that can really, it can cause mental fatigue, and it's just more, it's just adding more pain to an already, system that sometimes we're just hard on ourselves, and it's not necessary. So just try to avoid that wherever you can. And, trusting your body and being gentle with yourself. If you just slowly tune in and notice how your body's feeling. Are you craving certain foods? What's going on when you're craving them? Noticing either a craving for something like a soothing sort of food. Are you craving connection? Are you wanting some other, are you eating away shame or guilt or something like that? But also noticing when you eat certain things, how your body feels after it, because a lot of times foods will sort of quit you because of like, oh, it's not worth it, or, oh, wow, it felt so good when I ate that. I know what my body needs. So being really in touch with that. I've worked really hard at this over the years. I studied nutrition before. I had not a great relationship. I've always loved food, but I think there was like so many women I know, there were some really distorted views, body image things, and some eating when I was in my university years, and I was restricted at certain times, or then I'd eat a lot other times. And over the years, it's just really listening. What does my body need? What feels good? And I have a very strong sense of, okay, I actually really want fish, or I want green vegetables. I have lots of healthy cravings now, but sometimes it's like, no, I really want a piece of chocolate, like really want it. I'm going to have it. And I will let myself have whatever it is, because I'm in touch with what's going on and what the needs are. And if it's feeling what comfort, I don't do that anymore, that comfort eating. I certainly had done it in the past, because I'm able to be in touch with that part of myself. Some just general food things that help with digestion is choosing foods that are local, fresh, whole foods. The more life force in the food, so we say the more chi that's in the food, that means it's got a better supply of nourishment for our bodies. So nutrients are higher. The more dense the color, the higher the nutrients. So, eating seasonally is wonderful. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the food, but, and there's certainly the nutrients that are present in that feed us for that time of the year as well. But just really trying to make sure you're getting foods that are of high quality and nutrient dense, because that's going to set you up really well. I talked about the heat. So, exercising can build up your metabolism, add some heat into your body. Making sure you're eating warm food the majority of the time can be really, really helpful. And eating with joy. There's a study that came out of the United States, and it was a group of, it was an Italian community, and I think it was called the Italian study. And they found that these people had lower incidence of heart disease, stroke, a lot of major illnesses. And they were trying to figure out why. And at first they thought it must be the diet, must be the Mediterranean diet. So they studied them and they're like, no, not really. They're not eating that radically different from everyone else. So what's going on? So they started to dive in more. And what they found was that these people were eating as a community. They were sitting down to eat. They were sharing, they were laughing, they were communicating, they were eating with joy and enthusiasm, and bringing that to the table. And that statistic, like through studies, and they've shown that that has a huge impact on our health as well. So it's not only what we eat, but how we eat it. So sitting down to eat, eating with joy, appreciating our food, even aesthetically, how in Chinese medicine, we say there's different, the way like food is grown, how we cooking it, preparing it, plating it, sharing it, and then actually eating it. They all feed a different part of ourselves. So making sure that you're, wherever you can, you're eating with that sense of connection, whether you're eating by yourself or if you're have the pleasure of other people around you, really trying to take time to appreciate that and take your time with your food as well. So just simple tips. These are very, very simple things, but hopefully that you got something out of that. I'd love to hear in the comments if there's anything that resonated with you, and we'll dive into a few other things around digestion and definitely food in the next upcoming series. All right, thanks for being here.